So we've been going through each division in the Ontario Hockey League, looking forward to the 2024-25 season and what each team could be considered a contender, which team might be middle of the pack or fighting for a playoff spot. And it all has led us to the West Division, which is the most fascinating because there's really no clear-cut team that could be considered a favorite to win the West. Last year, though, it was pretty simple. The Saginaw Spirit were hosting the Memorial Cup, so you knew they were going to go all in to try and go in through the front door of winning a championship and going into the Memorial Cup. But we also knew the Sioux Greyhounds were going to put a team together that would be competitive, as they also wanted to host the 2024 Memorial Cup. So last year, we knew that there was at least two teams challenging for the division. This year, not so much. So we're going to go through it alphabetically, each team, and talk about where they're at and whether or not they could be considered a contender for this division. So we're going to start off with the Flint Firebirds. Last year, they were third in the West Division. They had a record of 30, 33, 4-1, good for 65 points. Their power play, 16.6%. That was fifth in the division, while their penalty kill, 78.7%, which is third. Looking at their top scorers from last season, Oliver Peer led the way with 37 goals, 43 assists, 80 points. Nolan Dan, he had 28 goals, 36 assists, 64 points. And then Colson Petrie ended the year with 27 goals, 28 assists, 55 points. And then shifting to our focus to our goaltenders, Nathan Day, he had an .868 save percentage, while Jacob Brown, an .853 save percentage. So some not too bad stats here for the Flint Firebirds, who ended up being 8th in the Western Conference. And you'll remember, they were busy at the OHL trade deadline, trading away veteran players, but also bringing in players. So you knew this team wanted to make the playoffs last year and gain some experience going into this year. And they've just continued being one of the busiest teams in the trade market. So like I said, the trade deadline, they were back and forth. It was kind of just figuring out which direction exactly the Flint Firebirds were heading in. And then the offseason in June, they were pretty busy. They acquired Chris Thibodeau from the Kingston Frontenacs and then made a big trade with the Sudbury Wolves, acquiring Matthew Mania, Nolan Collins, and Evan Konyan. And then they also sent Tristan Bertucci to Barrie while acquiring Artem Frolov and Urban Podrakar from the Niagara Ice Dogs. And then they just sent Matthew Jankin to the Peterborough Petes the other day. So it's been in and out of players. They're trying to upgrade in certain departments. Well, just trying to cater to what this team needs to challenge in the West Division. So with all these moves, I think it's safe to say that the Flint Firebirds want to be competitive in this division. The division, like I said, is wide open. So the Flint Firebirds, I would almost lean they might be the favorite to win the division early on, but maybe by a hair compared to some of the other teams in the division. You'll also remember at the OHL trade deadline, they acquired Connor Clattenburg and Alex Kostov. That was the big return in the trade with the Sioux Greyhounds when they sent Gavin Hayes up north. And those pieces, I feel, are setting them up for a good spot going into next season. Plus, they have a fully stocked draft cupboard to deal with. I think the other thing that might be in their favor is Nathan Day in net. He might be the most underrated goaltender in the Ontario Hockey League heading into next season. And I think he could steal a few games and potentially steal a series come playoff time. So for the Flint Firebirds, I'm kind of wondering if they're going to be the team to win the West Division. I'm curious as to what you think of that. So put your comments down below. Do you think Flint might be a team that could win the West Division? Shifting our focus now to the Saginaw Spirit. Of course, they finished first in the West Division with a record of 50, 16, 1-1, 102 points. Their power play was amazing, 25.5% to lead the division. And their penalty kill, also first in the division at 83.1%. Their top scorers last year, Zane Parekh led the way with 33 goals, 63 assists, 96 points. Owen Beck, who they acquired at the trade deadline, he ended the season with 34 goals, 47 assists, 81 points. And then Michael Misa, 29 goals, 46 assists, 75 points, as he was third in scoring on the Saginaw Spirit last season. Looking at goaltending, Andrew Oak, he had an .890 save percentage, and then Nolan Lalonde, an .869 save percentage. So the Saginaw Spirit, they may not have won the OHL title as they wanted, but they still defeated the London Knights in the Memorial Cup Championship to be the junior hockey champion of North America. So it was a great run for them. So since they went all in, I do believe the Saginaw Spirit are going to look to recoup most of those picks and young players. But at the same time, this division is wide open. So maybe they make a couple of moves, maybe nothing drastic, because you have to figure Michael Misa, he's in his draft year. He's going to be putting on quite the performance this season unless they look to move him. Remember, John Tavares, he was traded from Oshawa to London in his draft year. So Saginaw could go down that route, or you keep Michael Misa and see where this team can go. You also have to remember Zane Parekh. Yes, he was drafted first in the first round by the Calgary Flames at the NHL draft, but I don't think Calgary is going to keep Zane Parekh. I think there's a very good possibility that he is sent back to Saginaw. So with Misa, Parekh, you've got a top forward, a top defenseman. That could be a lane to maybe challenge for top spot again in this West Division, or you do the trade route and recoup those picks and players. But I think this is a fascinating situation the Saginaw Spirit find themselves in. I think if there was another team in their division that was the clear-cut favorite, I think they would definitely go down the sell route. But when it's open like this, you might have to you could just make a couple of moves here or there, and they could maybe finish first in the division. If you finish first in your division, you're guaranteed either first or second in the Western Conference standing. So I do think this is it's going to be interesting to see what Saginaw does here. Looking at their draft cupboard, they don't have a second or third round pick until 2028, and in the 2025 draft, they have 2 picks in the 4th round. So when you look at the draft cupboard, they need to sell and get some draft picks back, or they're going to be looking at a future where this team could struggle if they don't address their draft cupboard and their prospect pool going down the road. So, like I said, it's a mixed bag with the Saginaw Spirit. I do believe they sell, but still they have that possibility. They've already traded away Nolan Lalonde. He was sent to the Kingston Frontenacs where they received a conditional 15th round pick. But they're going to need more than late round picks. They're going to want to recoup some second, third, or maybe even 4th round picks from trades during the regular season. Next on the list, we have the Sarnia Sting. They ended the season 4th in the West Division, a record of 25, 39, 3-1, 54 points. Their power play, 17.3%, which was 4th in the division. Their penalty kill, 71.5%, which was 5th. Their top scorers, Marco Sikic, 18 goals, 39 assists, 57 points. Tyson Doucette, 23 goals, 23 assists, 46 points. And then Zach Filak, 24 goals, 16 assists, good for 40 points. In net, Nick Szerzicka, he had an .875 save percentage, and then Carson Chartier, an .845 save percentage. So Sarnia, of course, they went all in 2023, which saw them make it to the Western Conference Final. As a result, though, they fell to 9th in the Western Conference standings last season, so it was expected that you do all these trades, you bring in the players that you need for a deep run, and then you take a step back. And that's exactly what happened to Sarnia last year. So that wasn't much of a surprise. But this Sarnia Sting organization, they're really wanting to change the culture of this franchise. And we'll see if they can do just that. I think they're taking the steps in the right direction. And things might be changing after they got a commitment, too, from Beckham Edwards, who had been pursuing the NCAA route. So this is kind of a big win for this organization to convince Edwards to take the OHL path to his professional hockey career, and we'll see what this could do for Sarnia going forward. And what's also neat is how they selected Edwards in the 3rd round, because usually you do that with someone who's thinking of the NCAA. You pick them in the later rounds and then try and convince them to join your program. And it was seen that was not very likely with this player, but after meeting with him, they were able to get him to sign during the offseason. So it's going to be very interesting to see Beckham Edwards play with the Sarnia Sting, because throughout his career up to this point, he's been red hot around the net. Now, the Sting, they may find themselves in a similar spot as last year, fighting for a playoff spot, but I do believe they're going to be stronger this upcoming season. They should be able to put up more wins than what they had last year, but give it a couple more seasons, and we could be talking about the Sarnia Sting as a possible contender for this West Division. Now, the Sault Greyhounds, they ended up 2nd in the West Division last year. It was a great race between Sault Ste. Marie and Saginaw all season long. For the Greyhounds, they had a record of 45, 18, 3-2, good for 95 points. Their power play, 22.9%, was 2nd best in the division. And their penalty kill, 78.9%, also second best in the West. Jack Beck, he ended up with 27 goals, 58 assists, 85 points. That led the Greyhounds in scoring last year. Then there's Gavin Hayes, who they picked up from Flint. He had 37 goals, 39 assists, 76 points. And then Marco Magnosa, he's third in scoring, 22 goals, 31 assists, 53 points. In net, Charlie Schenkel, an 883 save percentage, and Landon Miller in his rookie season, an 889 save percentage. So pretty good there from the young netminder. So it was fun, like I said, watching the battle in the West Division between the Greyhounds and the Spirit. But with the Sioux buying at the trade deadline and several graduating players, I believe Sault Ste. Marie, they're going to take a step back. How far? I don't think it'll be missing the playoffs. They should still be a playoff team, but they're going to have to look to regroup and acquire picks and young talent, I think, for a future run. But goaltending will be interesting with the Greyhounds. Schenkel, going into his overage season, he showed some solid goaltending, but you also have Miller, who has a lot of potential. So if they decide to move on from Schenkel and go all in with Miller, I think that would be a big step for this organization and show that they're committed to the future. But if they go with Schenkel, they're looking at it as, we want to get some more experience for the core of this group. So it's going to be very fascinating to see what kind of decisions are made when it comes to goaltending for the Sioux Greyhounds. And I would also expect that Brady Martin and Travis Hayes, they were rookies last year, they'll take the next step in their developments and might carry a little more of the load this year for the Sioux Greyhounds when it comes to the offense. And finally, the Windsor Spitfires, they ended fifth in the West Division last year with a record of 18-42, 5-3, 44 points. It was not a fun season if you're a Windsor Spitfire fan. Their power play last year, though, 21%, which was third best in the West Division, and their penalty kill, 74.6%, which was fourth in the division. Liam Greentree, he didn't let the struggles of the team hold him back. He led the team with 36 goals, 54 assists, 90 points. After him is Ryan Abraham, 31 goals, 35 assists, 66 points. And then Valentin Jugend, third in team scoring, 23 goals, 26 assists, good for 49 points. In net, Max Donoso had an 873 save percentage, while Joey Costanzo an 855 save percentage. So this team wanting to move on from finishing at the bottom of the Ontario Hockey League standings, and I think they're ready to take that step. After winning the OHL draft lottery, getting a new head coach, Greg Walters is going to take over behind the bench. He brings a lot of experience there. He's going to be a voice that I think is going to be able to get this team motivated to take that next step. And then Liam Greentree, like I said, solid season despite being on a team that struggled last year. But reinforcements, they're on the way. With that draft lottery, they went with Ethan Belchitz. He brings size down the middle. It'll probably take him some time to get used to this level of hockey, but just his sheer size and what we saw at the OHL Cup, there's a lot of promising, for his future here to help him out going forward and to help this organization get back into the playoff picture in the Western Conference. The Spitfires, they also added Tanias Mathurin from the North Bay Battalion. He's entering his overage season. I really liked Mathurin when he was with the North Bay Battalion. I think he's going to help this defense quite a bit because that was a problem last year. Was the goals against was pretty tough to watch at times as teams were able to put up 10 goals or more on a few occasions during the regular season. So I think Mathurin will help him out. I'm not sure if playoffs are a guarantee for the Windsor Spitfires. They will be better, but I think they're going to be in a position where they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot in the Western Conference. But it's safe to say that Windsor will be better than what we saw last year. So looking at the overall picture for this West Division, I think it's hard to say who is going to be the clear favorite for this division. I'm leaning a bit towards the Flint Firebirds with all the moves, but that's not a guarantee because what about the chemistry? You're bringing in a bunch of new players who may have not played with one another before, so it's going to take time to get used to the systems and one another. So Flint, I'm kind of leaning towards. We'll have to wait and see. The Saginaw Spirit, I believe they're going to sell off to regain some assets, but there is that off chance that maybe they do a soft sell and see where they end up in the West Division. They could win this division if things don't work out with Flint Firebirds. Saginaw could take top spot in the division, and then they'd be in the second seed if, say, they don't have as strong of a season as teams in the Midwest Division. And then, of course, Sault Ste. Marie, Sarnia, Windsor. I believe they're all battling for playoff positioning at the bottom of the Western Conference. More so Windsor. I think they're going to be a team that's really going to have to fight hard to make it into the playoffs this upcoming season. But we haven't played a game yet for the regular season. It gets underway in about a month. We'll be talking about regular season hockey, but this is an exciting time. Training camp begins this weekend. I believe Saturday is Erie and Brampton, and then everybody else will get underway on Monday. It's an exciting time. We can all look forward to the new regular season. And let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on the West Division. Who do you think takes it? And what are your expectations going forward into this regular season? Love to see the interactions. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.